I think as an elected official, that's one of the main reasons why I'm put in place, is to be the voice of the people. The last presentation that was presented to us, there were money being allocated to certain things that made no sense. Like they want to have a high school support system. They allocated $700,000. So I questioned that. What does this mean? Can you break it down? They weren't able to break it down, because I believe that if we say that we're gonna, it's in the budget to hire 12 deans, I believe we should have 12 deans.
Right.
We have no deans. I like to be transparent, and for whatever changes we make should be communicated not only to the board but also to the
public.
Correct.
You're the first woman I've had on this podcast, and you've taken a tremendous amount of heat off of me. And it wasn't done by design. It just, when Manny gave me your name, I said, I called you right away. I said, please say yes, please be. Welcome to Bare Wires, where we have unfiltered conversation for curious people. My name's Brian Heyman, and today we're going to be talking about a very special place, a place where politics, religion, and community collide. It's a school district, East Ramapo School District, and we have somebody who can talk about it from the inside. Not all the noise on the outside, but actually has been in the middle of this controversy in Rockland County for a long time. And hopefully we can get some straight answers and figure out what's going on there. But I'd like to introduce Sabrina Charles Pierre. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into the controversy in East Ramapo, and we're going to go as far as we can with that, I want to talk to you about, did you live in that community? Were you born in that community? Where were you from originally?
Yes. Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. My name is Sabrina Charles Pierre, as you mentioned, and I was born and raised in Spring Valley.
Okay.
I attended the East Ramapo Central School District from K through 12. I currently have my youngest who's in the district. He's a 9th grader, and my oldest who graduated from the district.
Wow. So you're fully invested in this community.
Correct. So, I've watched the changes over the years, how we went from the #1 school in the state to now, being at the bottom, which kind of put me in a situation to want to do more for the district and our students.
When did you start to get the feeling that you could contribute to community, or get that feeling that you wanted to be part, more than just a member of the community, but somebody with a voice?
So after I graduated, I never left the district. I always, went to visit old teachers, former teachers, and participated in different events, meaning, showing up for basketball games. I was part of the musical in high school, so I always went back to see the musicals. And I think that kind of put me in a position to want to do more. Never thought about running for the school board, but there was an opportunity where a friend of mine who was supposed to be a candidate had to drop out, and they were looking for someone to fill the position.
Wow.
So
opportunity presents itself.
Correct. So
I think.
Depends how you look at it.
That's right.
Correct. So I was on social media, promoting these 3
What
candidates.
year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay.
So I was promoting the 3 candidates that were running at the time. No one really knew who I was. I went by Still I Rise on social media. I was invited to one of their meetings. And at that meeting, that's when they mentioned that this candidate, unfortunately, could not run anymore. So they were looking for someone to take his place. And a little birdie in the room said, "Oh, Sabrina, I heard you're interested." So I'm thinking there's another Sabrina in the room because, it was a few of us in there. No, you. And I'm like, oh, me. And that's where the journey.
So was that your first foray into community service?
So I've been doing community service since I was young. So I did Spring Hill Ambulance Corps for about, I want to say 7 years. I started as a youth corps in high school. I've done community service at my church. I've done after summer programs as well, and other different
What was your
areas.
occupation at the time when you decided to do this?
When I ran for the school board?
Yeah.
Where was I working? That's a very good question. I want to say I was working at Refuah Health Center.
Okay.
I was at Dr. Gopalaswamy's office, which was a dental office, and then from there I transitioned to Refuah Health Center, where I worked for about 2 to 3 years. Became per diem, and then started working for the Rockland County's Bar Association.
Okay. All right. So because when taking on those responsibilities, you need the time.
Correct.
It's I ran actually for the school board here in North Rockland, so it's a very time-consuming endeavor, and you need to be able to separate that time so you can do a good job.
Especially if you're the type of board member that shows up to everything.
Right. I am one of those too.
And we have, as you know, we have 14 buildings, 2 high schools, 3 middle schools. So I've learned to focus just on middle school and high school. And show up to what I can when it comes to elementary. I feel like the middle school, high school students need my presence more. And they enjoy having me around. So
okay, but the transition, if I was to look at it, I've been in the county all my life. When I first noticed it, this is not the beginning, but when I first noticed, where it really hit the public eye was when buildings started to get sold. Mm-hmm. The elementary school, Hillcrest Elementary,
and Colton.
And Colton was sold because that's kind of what hit the news, and people started really starting to say, "What's going on here?" These are buildings, elementary school. I know you weren't involved at that time. Did you know what was going on as far as the changes that were taking place as far as resources go at that time?
Yes, I was aware. Social media was around at the time, so that's where I received a lot of the news that I heard was going on. I'm not sure about the behind the scenes. Right. As you mentioned, I wasn't on the board then, but it was new. It did make the news at the time, and a lot of us who are former graduates of East Ramapo made noise about it on social media to see, and showed up to meetings and see and voiced how we felt about that.
Right. They were sold to the Acidic community.
Correct.
And I believe one of them at least was redone as a yeshiva or a school.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's what hit the national news. It was local, then it blinked on the national news, and that's really when I started to notice what was going on more or less. But this was a long process that had started a long time ago, and that whole area was changing. I can remember when. There was actually a hospital in Spring Valley. I don't know what it is now. It's an office building or something. But, a lot of people were born, have been around a long time, were born in that little hospital there off of 45.
Correct.
Yeah. So you're getting involved in a bee's nest. So they say, come on, let's go. What did you think you were going to get involved in when you said yes?
Let me ask you something. Why are you still renting your electricity from a utility company every single month? You're watching your bills go up. You have no control over the rates. And every year it just gets worse. Last year for the same time period during the winter, I paid $825. This year I paid over $1,200. Something's got to change. That's why I want to tell you about a local company in the tri-state area called On-Site Energy. These guys aren't salespeople. They're operators. They actually know how to design a system that makes financial sense for your house. With On-Site Energy, you're not just putting panels on the roof. You're locking in the cost of power. Now, I've seen a lot of companies in this space, and I had my doubts about solar energy. But as my bills went up, I figured I'd give it a look. Most companies I talked to overcomplicated it, but with On-Site, they kept it simple and tells you straight if it works for you. At least get the numbers. Reach out to On-Site for a free consultation. No pressure. Just clarity. Give it a shot. Start to control the cost of your energy. Click the link below in the show description and get 6 months free.
Kind of was voluntold. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but it was a process. Not necessarily more so of a challenge because the three of us who ran together. So it made it a little bit easier to collect petitions, to get lawn signs, collect money, and fundraise. But I didn't think I would be sitting here 11 years later, still serving on the school board. I just won my re-election last year to serve another 3 years.
Right.
Correct.
What ward you in, 2?
Ward 2.
Ward 2, right?
Yes. And, you know, from serving on the East Ramapo board, now I'm the president of the Rockland County School Board Association and vice president of Rockland BOCES. So I've seen many different sides of serving on a board.
Right.
I also attend a lot of the school board conferences. I'm actually leaving Thursday to go to San Antonio to a National School Board Association conference, where I learn a lot. And you'll be surprised what other districts are going through, which a little bit is kind of similar, but not, you know, in a different way. And I've taken those situations and the knowledge I've learned from that to bring it back here in our district and see how we can make change.
So let's talk about East Ramapo District. The complexity is basically you have a monoculture there, the Hasidic Jewish community, which basically votes as one. When you meet monoculture, they live in a very particular way, and they're very cohesive, let's just say. Then you have the students in the public school that are minority students, mostly Spanish, African American, and so you have this conflict of needs. All right. How many students altogether? If you were to take all the students in the area right now, how many students would you have, both private and public?
So in our district, we have about 40,000 students.
Okay, and if you were to break those up in percentages, how many would be public school? How many would be private?
About 10,000 public school students and 30,000 private
So
schools.
almost 80% in private.
Correct.
All right, so now you sit on a board where you're in charge of the resources for the school. You're elected official.
Correct.
All right, and how many board members are there?
9 altogether.
So there's 9 board members. You said you ran with 2 other board members.
At the time, yes.
And so when the makeup of the board is exactly what? What is the makeup of the board as far as how many are from the Hasidic community on the board and how many from the general community?
We have 3 from the general and 6 from the private community.
So out of 9 board members, you have 3 from basically the community at large.
Correct.
And you have 6 from the Hasidic community.
Correct.
Okay. So you're in a situation where you're making decisions on resources for the public school. This is a public school board, all right?
Correct.
Well, let's be clear about that. And these resources are limited, okay? They're taxes, they're taxing the people. We can get into whether that should be the way that schools are run or financed. You know, I have my own opinion about that and my taxes and,
Correct.
and where they're going. I don't want to get into that because we're here for 3 days. But let's assume that New York, the property tax in New York, most of your property tax goes towards the school district. You know, it's not a big deal for the town or the county tax. Most of your taxes, 60, 80% of them are for the school district. And, the thinking was, listen, educated people are going to make a better society. We need to educate our people. And I'm a big believer in that. I believe that education is an equalizer on all fronts.
Correct.
And I've been involved in a number of schools that have demonstrated that pretty clearly. So I'm not against the philosophy, but now you're in a situation where you have 6 board members that actually have a different agenda than what they should have as far as the public schools go. So you're elected official, the community itself is large, so they're able to elect these people in here. I just have a quick question. How did you keep getting elected?
That is a very good question. I actually ran the past few elections unopposed. We also have awards.
Was that by design?
Over the years, that's what I started to think. I'm pretty sure it is by design. And that, we all know all eyes is on East Ramapo right now.
It's been for 15 years. I mean, the state has come in.
Correct.
They're monitoring. I think you still have a monitor.
We have 2 New York State monitors right now for physical and academics.
Right.
We've actually had over 10 plus New York State monitors come in and out in the last 10 years, 11 years I've served on the board. So for us to still be in the situation we're in now, makes me question too, what is the goal of the of NYSED of the state for East Ramapo.
Yeah, well, let's go a couple layers even lower than that. That block vote is not only in East Ramapo, it's also electing officials in Rockland County and in the state.
Correct.
When Hillary Clinton shows up to East Ramapo for no apparent reason, it's not because she's looking for a good bagel. She's looking for votes.
She's looking for votes.
And that system that they have, that block vote, that monoculture system that they have, works for them very, very well.
Very well.
Okay? So my question wasn't facetious when I asked you, how did you get elected? And the reason I asked you that is because it seems to me that they could elect all 9 people. And why don't they do it? Is it for the way they want it to look? Is it by design? Like I said, well, we need to have these people to save face on the board because we're voting for resources that are leaving the public schools. For example, it's been well documented that there was no extracurricular activities. Sports teams were going down.
Marching band,
there was no English as a second language. There was a lot of programs, after-school programs, that were being eliminated due to financial constraints, okay? Now, you have 6 people who really don't have an agenda for the public schools. They're really concerned with the private schools because the people that they actually represent are traveling to private schools. So by law, I think, and you correct me, please, the transportation at a minimum has to be provided by the taxpayers, regardless of what school you go to.
We're mandated to provide, we provide mandated services for IEP students, transportation and textbooks.
Okay. So now they obviously want to reduce their taxes. They don't want to pay for an education they really don't get involved in. So how does that struggle happen in a boardroom? When you start talking about these finances and allocating resources and putting money into the public school district, this is a public, again, I'm going to repeat, this is a board for the public school of East Ramapo, not for yeshivas, okay? How does that conversation happen in a boardroom?
So to be honest, in the 11 years that I've served, the budget is created by the superintendent and the cabinet. It's brought to the board after it's finalized by the different departments and the superintendent.
Okay, what does the board consist of? What does the cabinet consist of? Are they working in the school district?
Yes. So that would be assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction.
Who appoints the superintendent?
The board.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So the super is he new, the superintendent?
She's currently an interim.
Okay.
That's another topic. We went through a superintendent search. Unfortunately, it was rejected by the state monitor. So we're waiting to hear back from the commissioner to see if she's going to override what the monitor, their decision. I do know the search firm decided to repost the position. So we're just, I guess, Tuesday at our board meeting, we'll know which direction we're going.
Okay, so you're actually in limbo. You have an interim.
Correct. We've had
Who is the interim appointed by the board?
So the interim is appointed by the board, but it was recommended by the state monitor.
Okay, all right.
And she happens
to
be...
So are they from outside the community?
She was our interim HR person.
Okay, and they bumped her up to superintendent.
Correct.
Okay, nice.
And I didn't agree.
Nice little bump there.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm for the audience sake, I'm trying to flush out as much as I can so people have a clear understanding of what's going on. I'm not really interested in taking sides, but people, it's one of these things that nobody wants to talk about unless they're talking, to the side. They don't want to step up. They don't want to talk about what's going on in the school district. And, I've been vocal about it in certain places and certain groups that I've been with about how I felt that the students were being cheated in the East Ramapo School District because of the resources that were being taken away. And,
I know that the state actually came in and mandated that the taxes be more, that you needed
correct.
to, I think it
2
was
years ago.
4.3 more,
Correct.
that the state said, hey, listen, this is getting ridiculous, because obviously they're going to be paying those taxes too, and they don't want to pay those taxes.
Correct.
Because they're not using those resources. What have you seen as far as the board goes, when you sit there with the other two people? I see the board's pretty much split up 6 and 3, on most all decisions, I would say. Is there any time where you agree with the rest of the 6? Do you have any common ground that you guys work with together? Or decisions made before you ever get to the board meeting is what I'm trying to figure out.
So for I want to say the past few years, the way I've seen the board meetings being ran and the decisions being made by the board as a whole has been the majority voting for whatever's on the agenda. Some of us may have our differences, may pull an item from the agenda to question it. Certain members may have more input on things like transportation or certain mandated services. But for the most part, we've been actually pretty good. But I've also been on the board where we've had many different board members come in and out.
Okay, so there's been a rotation of board members.
Correct.
You've been pretty much the most stable board member there on that 3.
Well,
Even on the other
correct.
side too. So
Correct.
there's been a rotation of board members,
Correct.
which, by the way, is not usual.
Correct.
I mean, in most of the school districts in Rockland County, I could just talk about North Rockland. I mean, some of these board members have been on there for 10, even close to 20 years, and that's pretty much the way it is with a lot of boards. If you want to do all this work and not get paid, they'd be happy to have you.
Correct. Correct.
So, and like I said, it is very time consuming. Remember that. The budgets that, I don't know what your budget is in East Ramapo, but I think North Rockland is like $230,000. So
We're
you're
about 384 million.
So with that money, 384 is way up there.
Yeah.
That, on the tax thing. So with that money, you're paying for busing. You've sold a couple schools. Why isn't that money translating into more things for the students in the public school?
I think what happened in the past is that we've had a lot of budgets that failed, and because of that, we had to go into contingency.
Right, austerity budgets.
Correct.
Right,
and that's when things like music, arts, sports, certain electives were taken away from our students. We even didn't have a full-day kindergarten at one point.
Right.
I think when I started in 2015, that's when I want to say a few months, I was appointed October 2015. I want to say a few months after that, that's when full-day kindergarten was reinstated, I guess you can say, in our district. I think North Rockland as well.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a major role in why there were so many cuts. But at the same time, I know with me being on the board the past few years, I've looked at it when it's presented to us that, there's a few, that we will need to make cuts. I always question, because what I've learned going to these conferences and with our former superintendent, Dr. Wortham, who also taught me a lot, is that you always start at the top. So what they were doing was they were starting in the classrooms. Let's get rid of arts. Let's get rid of music. Instead of looking at the organizational chart and seeing which positions, like, do we need certain positions? Do we need a director of literacy, for example?
Right.
Do we need a director of math, science, social studies? Just looking at the top and making sure that what's needed and what's not needed, and making sure that, we don't take away from our students.
Okay, so when they decided to get rid of teachers and teachers' assistants and, people that were in the classroom doing the work, how did that what kind of conversation was that in the board, between, let's say, the three of you and the six of them, because that's probably the breakup of the decision making.
So the cuts were before I joined the board. So all the cuts with music, arts, teachers being cut, electives being removed, that was before my time.
Okay.
So all of that was reinstated, I want to say 2015, 2016, but due
by a
to
state monitor?
because we have the state monitor and us having the funds, and then 2020 with COVID, that's when we started having teacher shortage.
Okay.
So we went from cuts, reinstatement, teachers starting to come back, to now we have COVID. Now we have a shortage of teacher till this day. But I think the reason why we have a shortage now is not even clearly it's no longer because of COVID, but East Ramapo has such a bad reputation. No one wants to come to East Ramapo.
Okay, so when you have pretty much never been on the board without a state monitor being involved.
Correct, because I want to say they started 2014, and I've been on the board since 2015.
So let me ask you a question. So people understand the mechanics of this. You're in a board meeting, you disagree with the decision. Do you have the ability to go to the state monitor and say, listen, this is what's happening. We don't think this is right. Regardless if they agree with you or not, but is that a procedure that you may go to if everything else fails? Let's say you don't agree, and it probably happens all the time, and you feel these funds should be reinstated or should not be going to a certain place. Can you go to the state monitors? Are they available at the board meetings? Are they at every board meeting?
So our current state monitor now for academics, Dr. Jallo, I want to say she's pretty much at every board meeting in person. Mr. Farr usually shows up virtually.
So you have two of them right now?
We have two. So we started off with three back in 2014. In the past, I want to say that I've been able to reach out to our state monitors and have a conversation. They've built relationships with, board members, community members, where they had this open door policy where I felt comfortable to go to them. To be honest, now I don't feel like it's the same thing.
So, can I assume that when you started and now you feel that the district is in worse shape now than when you first, was on the board, or do you feel like it's getting better? Is there a systematic step up because of these monitors, or you really just think it's in basically the same conditions when you started?
We started to get better in 2016 after COVID, when our former superintendent left. That's when we started going downhill again. And that's also because of the fact that we haven't had a consistent superintendent since. We did have one who was there for 3 years. Unfortunately, we did not renew his contract. Ever since then, we've been dealing with interim superintendents.
What kind of support do you get from the community that have these kids going to public schools? I mean, they must realize that these resources are available, but they're not being directed in the right place to educate their kids. I mean,
so the parents are a lot of the parents are very vocal. They do come to the board meetings. They do speak at the board meetings. We even have students that speak at the board meetings now. But like I said, it's hard to fix the issue when you don't have someone in place to make the changes.
Okay, so, going forward, let's say you get a superintendent that's not influenced by either group. Do you feel that you're going to be more comfortable in moving this school in a positive manner?
It's definitely possible.
Okay.
Like I said, we have to have the right...
That's good news, by the way.
Correct. It's possible if we have the right person in place for the right reasons.
Okay, so let me ask you, are you saying that the superintendent will influence the other six, let's just talk 3 and 6, the other 6 members on the board to act differently or vote differently?
When you say...
Because, you control the superintendent.
Correct.
All right? The school board
board.
is the top dog in school districts, all right? So the decisions you make at school board meetings are the final decisions.
Correct.
Matter of fact, you're the superintendent's direct boss.
Correct.
All right? So if I'm hiring a superintendent and the superintendent doesn't agree with the allocation of funds, say, for example, the bottom line comes to the board. When the board votes 6-3, the board's going to get the way they want. All right. How does the monitor from New York State come into play there?
So the last board meeting, I actually questioned the budget where I didn't agree with what was presented to us, the board, by our director of business and the interim superintendent. One thing that I do at every board meeting is I ask questions. I think as an elected official, that's one of the main reasons why I'm put in place, is to be the voice
Right.
of the people.
Absolutely.
So we've had the last presentation that was presented to us, there were money being allocated to certain things that made no sense.
Can you give me some examples?
Like they want to have a high school support system. And it was $700,000.
But it would be in the public school.
It would be in the public.
Okay.
But it was they allocated $700,000. So I questioned that. What does this mean? Can you break it down? They weren't able to break it down. So I have a problem with that because I feel like we should be able to detail and explain where the money is going. And I feel like if we can't explain where the money is going, then they need to rethink or repurpose to where it needs to go.
Okay, so I'm trying to make sense of this. So the problem's not only the community that you're dealing with, the acidic community that really doesn't have a dog in the public school fight. They have their own schools. Their kids go to the private schools. And we talked maybe, just ballpark figure, there's 80% of the students in the district that go to private schools and 20% that go to public schools, ballpark figure. So you're actually talking about people that are in the public schools that you don't agree with what the programs are putting together. So there's a couple different levels of stuff that's going on here.
That's actually been my biggest challenge, is making sure that our students in the public schools get what they need.
Absolutely.
For example, after school program. We are now in April. We still don't have after school programs for our students. Okay. And that's not the board. That comes from, our interim superintendent, cabinet, curriculum and instructions, whoever's supposed to be putting that in place.
Are they being influenced by anybody, or are they just not doing the job?
I think they're not doing their job because, like I said, I question it publicly at meetings, and I don't think others would really know what's going on in the public schools unless they're in the schools to know, or if someone is telling them. So for me, for someone who's in the schools, I talk to our parents, I talk to our students, I talk to teachers, that's something that I know that's not there, that's been missing.
Okay, so, when we talked about under-service or under programs or things that are going away, or some of this is actually coming from within the school district itself. It's not being dictated by the 6 members on the board. It's really, some of it's an administrative problem within the system itself. I think that's important to understand because, like myself, I blamed the leakage of money from one group to another group, and I figured that was the whole problem. That's not the whole problem.
So yes, I can't speak for what happened behind the scenes prior to me being on the school board, but from me serving the past few years, it's been an administrative issue.
Okay, by design?
I think so.
Okay, so that's just another method of being able to manipulate the funds in the school district.
To the point where
who's doing the accounting for the school? I know you guys found, there was a large sum of money, and for lack of a better term, found. And
after we were told that we would not be able to meet payroll, we would not be able to open up the school in September, and that came from our.
Do you know what the sum was? I don't remember.
So it changed. It went from, I want to say, 90 million to 30 million to 70 million. Actually asked at the last few board meetings for them
I
to
caught the
give me-
first number, by the way. That I don't remember all those other numbers.
Yeah, correct. So I did ask for a number. Hopefully I get it on Tuesday to see what that exact number was and where we are with that number now. But that came from the New York State Monitor.
Okay,
He's
so
the one who said we wouldn't be able to open the schools, we wouldn't be able to make payroll. Come June, he resigned.
okay, so is there a person allocated in the school district that does the accounting or does the, is doing the budgets before they present it to you?
It comes from the Department of Business.
Okay, all right, and that's they're not
And
elected.
he's-
They're not elected officials.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And he's only been there, I want to say, for 2 years now.
So it seems like a lot of the problem is the lack of longevity in the people that are making up these rules or the accounting or, who's doing the audit on the school district itself.
There's no consistency. There's no one passing the baton. And when we did not renew the contract for one of the superintendents, to be honest, the entire cabinet resigned or retired.
Wow.
So when we hired Mr. DiCarlo to be the interim superintendent 2 years ago, he actually had to post and hire his cabinet team. So this is year 2 for them, for those of them that are still there.
It seems to me that the turnover is a huge problem, okay? Because you can't get a consistent plan together to, basically allocate the funds properly to the school district. So it's not all the other community this big cabal that everybody thinks is going on. There's actually internal problems in the
Internal
school
issues.
district itself.
Correct.
Whether that's by design or not, we're not sure, but there's significant turnover that would lead to things not getting done or
Correct.
followed through on.
Correct.
Okay?
And it's like I said to the commissioner 2 weeks ago, it's hard to address the issues when you have no one in place to address the issues. We know what the issues are, but every time we go to address the issue, there's a change in leadership. This person resigns, this person retires. So now it's like we're starting from scratch again.
Can I just ask you a question? When you hire these people, isn't there a contract is there a certain amount of time that you guys are hiring? Like a contract says, okay, you're going to be here for 4 years. After 4 years, we'll either renew your contract or not. Is there a time in these contracts, or are they just being hired? And
For most, yes, but we don't get involved, as you know, with the, executive directors and assistant superintendents. Their contract doesn't usually come to us. So I'm not sure what that language is.
who does it go to?
HR and the interim superintendent, and I believe whoever else they have on the team, depending on the department.
So you have no say in who gets hired? You don't have the last approval?
We have the last approval. So usually when the agenda is presented to us, what I like to do is research the person. That way, if I have any questions, I can ask my questions or, give my opinion prior to the board meeting.
Okay, so we got some dual things going on. We have 6 board members that are loyal to the community they belong in. We have 3 board members that, by and large, are trying to represent the public school in its entirety. If you would have $10 million given to you, what would be the first couple of things you do for the school district, the public school district?
What's needed more now?
That's not a big piece of the budget, by the way.
Correct.
In your school district.
Correct.
I thought ours was bad.
No, yeah. Transportation alone is about 70 million.
Right.
10 million. I mean, I would start off with resources for our students in the middle school and high schools. Trying to bring back more electives. I know that's been one of their biggest complaints. Having AP classes, maybe something as simple as lunch to lunch. That's been another big complaint. How the food is not good. We have universal lunching right now, where we have students they're eating on the floor. So maybe creating something for them when it's lunchtime for them, for them to go, like it's springtime, of course, maybe in the courtyard, or trying to do maybe clubs during lunchtime. That way they're not just, but I would say, things like that.
Okay, so
making
if
sure
you
we
were
have
to
social
say,
workers.
what's the graduation rate from the high school right now?
I know it just came out. I want to say Ramapo High School was about 80%.
Okay.
Spoon Valley, 59%.
Do most of those kids go on to college? Do any of those kids go on to college? What's the percentage of those kids that go on to college?
I don't know what the percentage is, but we do have a great number of students that go off to college.
Okay.
If not college, then, some of them go off to military, Navy, Army, but majority do go off to college.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing and, what people are going to hear is there's a problem internally in the administration in East Ramapo and has been for some time because of turnover. There's also a resource allocation that the board is the final decision maker on, which you have 3 that actually are representing the community at large, public schools community, and the other 6 are tied in some way, shape, or form to the acidic community, which all their kids go to a private school. And this school district, you just mentioned $70 million for transportation, is mandated to supply that transportation, like all school districts, by the way.
And we also have universal busing.
Right. So that's mandated, and whatever other services are mandated. Is there any other way that they can manipulate money to leave the public school and go to these private schools?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
If there is a way, I don't know the way.
I mean, it's a big budget. A lot of money can get lost. Most of the budget's salary anyway.
Correct. Salary, benefits.
Right.
Something I've noticed is that at least with this current year's budget, what was presented to the voters and to the board, there's been a lot of changes during the school year with this new interim superintendent that we have in place, that I've questioned as well, because I believe that if we say that we're gonna, it's in the budget to hire 12 deans, I believe we should have 12 deans.
Right.
We have no deans. Instead, they decided to put instructional coordinators. They say it's a different term for deans, and I like to be transparent, and for whatever changes we make should be communicated not only to the board but also to the
public.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the standard that most boards work under. The communication to the public tends to lack sometimes. I have to be honest with you.
Correct.
I don't know how many people are paying attention, quite frankly, to just working to pay the taxes. But do you've guys gone through an odyssey for the last, since 2009, 15 years, easy, 16 years, 17 years. Do you see this happening to, if you were to say, okay, I see this happening to other schools, what 2 school districts in the county you think that are the next ones to face these kind of challenges?
In Rockland County?
Yeah.
Well, from what I've heard, possibly Suffern and North Rockland.
Okay. All right. So the challenges that you've been dealing with for the last 15, 16 years are you see, because you're an insider, we don't do this every day. This is what you do every day. You see that go into Suffern. There's proximity there, obviously. And North Rockland, not so much proximity, but you see that.
But I think,
another school.
Suffern, I think they had recently closed down. I don't know if it was 1 or 2 schools.
Okay.
But I know they already closed down. But that's also due to low enrollment,
right?
From what I understand,
there is a decrease in enrollment.
Correct.
All right.
So
I'm glad we got some of this stuff out of what transpired. Now, do you ever see the school district operating without a state monitor?
To be honest, what I told the commissioner 2 weeks ago is that I understand we need state monitors, but I feel like the state monitors we have in place now are not making any changes or making any difference in what's going on in our district.
So they're not listening to you.
Correct.
Okay.
I also feel like they may have their own personal agenda,
Okay.
and it's not to benefit our students or our district.
All right. And what I said before, there's a lot of layers here. All right. And, these state monitors are appointed by who?
The commissioner.
Commissioner of Education?
Correct.
Okay. Who answers to who?
The state monitors answer to the commissioner. I know.
Yeah, but the commissioner answers to who? This is not a test. Answers to the governor.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So the governor gets elected by what?
The people.
That's right. Where is a block of vote coming to the governor? Okay. This is not difficult stuff. And my concern is not all of that, to be honest with you. My concern, and it always been the students in East Ramapo. And, to a certain extent, I think the politics of this, the economics of this, has left a lot to be desired for the education in East Ramapo. And when I ask you, where do you think this is going next? I don't ask you because, it's a guess. These other school districts can prepare themselves to face these challenges if they understand what they are. And it's not the challenge that you think that's right in front of you. Okay? You think it's the challenge right in front of you, but these are many layers. These decisions are made at such a high level and trickle down to these school districts. By the time they realize what's going on, another person's there.
Correct.
All right? So this is something, it's a very complicated thing, and people either don't have the time or don't want to take the time to understand it, but it's coming. And when you say suffering in North Rockland, I see that. So unless they prepare for these challenges, they'll be caught in the same conundrum as East Ramapo has been caught. So that's really where I want to get to, and what I want to try to understand and try to have the people who listen to this podcast understand. This is not just East Ramapo's problem. Yes, it started in East Ramapo, but it's a challenging thing for all the school districts in Rockland County.
Correct.
Unless they recognize it, it's going to be a real issue. How it's solved, I'm not sure. What are the things that could be done to, let me ask you, what are the things that could be done to try to mitigate that situation? Is there a law that could be put in place where public schools, the people that are on the board of the public schools have to be, either kids in the school district themselves, or is there something that you might have thought about to say, okay, we don't have to go by just elected board members. We could have other standards for these board members to meet to make sure that their interest is in the public school district entirely. Is there anything that you may think of that would help that process? Because as long as it's done by election, and you have a block vote from a certain community, and by the way, I'd welcome that community to be on the podcast to hear their view about it. It doesn't seem fair. All right, in its appearance. Now, we've explored some other things that are actually happening, and if you think about them, they may be bumped up to the level where it actually goes back to the same thing. But we don't know that, and we can't prove that, so we can't say that. What you're saying to me is that the administration has been unstable, there's a big turnover, so therefore nothing can get done. Was that done by design? That's left to question. But if you run the gamut up, these appointees are appointed by the education department that answers to the governor of the state.
Correct.
Okay, so there, where there's smoke, there may be fire. I'm not saying there is, but it doesn't seem to me that they're getting the point across that this is a public school. Taxpayers are paying for it, whether they have their schools or not. I'm 67 years old. My kids have been out of school for 10 years, 15 years. I'm still paying the taxes. You know what I mean? So,
that's an obligation to society. That's what
Correct.
that's what you bought into, depending on where you live. So I'm just wondering if there's a solution to this. Is there a way that the kids in the public school don't lose resources, don't find themselves in chaos, and get the education they deserve to give them the equal opportunity when they get out of high school to compete?
Correct.
So
I'm not sure what that solution is. When I had a conversation with the commissioner's rep, I want to say maybe 3 years ago now, asked a lot of questions. We answered, and my question to them was exactly what you just asked. What is the solution? What is the end result? What is the goal? And the response was, well, if we had a solution, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And my thing is, people, as we have people in place to make changes, who have power to set laws and policies, I understand the solution might not be right there in front of us, but to give me a response like that and not say, well, let's figure it out together, or
this problem is very complicated.
Correct.
That most people don't understand.
It's a very unique.
It is. So let's just talk about the representatives. I had one of them on the podcast, Mike Lawler. Your responsibility as a politician is to represent your constituents. And a
Correct.
large constituent for Mike Lawler, quite frankly, is the acidic community, along with a number of other communities, all right? If he was to say, hey, listen, I don't care, I'm going to go and do something different, chances are he wouldn't have been elected, all right? So if you're not elected, you can't do anything.
Correct.
All right? So there's a compromise that has to be made somewhere along the line that either says we're going to change the laws, how we fund schools, and someone bold has to step up and say that, because for them to get and say it after they're elected, because they'll never be elected if they try to say that before.
Correct.
So this gets complicated, and the reason I wanted you here, because I wanted to get some insight from a person inside, and you've given us a lot of insight into a problem that people think they understand, but they really don't understand the complexity of it.
Correct.
And the different layers of it. And if there was something, if you had a magic wand and you could wave your magic wand, what would it look like after that? What would you do and say, listen, this is how I would set it up to, so there isn't undue influences from people that really don't have a vested interest in the school district?
I would clean shop.
Okay.
Start from scratch and bring people in who would be neutral, and actually invested in wanting to do the work.
How would you control the board, since it's elected officials? How would you? I might have mentioned to you, I haven't been over in that area probably for 4 or 5 years, maybe, and I had to go to a funeral at Hellman's Funeral Home, and I had to go from the funeral into Jersey. So there's only one way to do that.
Correct.
Okay, is go down Main Street, but it was too much traffic, and I couldn't go. So I went on the back roads. And by the time I got to the graveyard, I was stunned. All right, it looked to me to be controlled chaos. I mean, the buildings were all in shambles, not well kept, but they were built in, a hopodge type of manner. I didn't understand. There was people all over the streets. It was a nice day. It was 70 degrees. And it looked like everybody knew what they were doing, but it looked like chaos at the same time. And that community has grown so much since I've been there last time. They're practically living on top of each other in that. And they're spreading out through the county. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but unless you change the method of either financing the schools or the ability to elect board members that have a vested interest in the public schools, I think this problem starts to spread in Rockland County. And that's why I asked you the 2 areas you thought this would start to manifest itself in the county. And you mentioned Suffern, logical, close proximity, they spreading in that area. So once they get control of the board, they make the rules. So the lessons learned from East Ramapo is something that these school districts should be looking at right now. The ultimate goal here is to educate the students.
Correct.
Okay? They should not be cheated. They should not be shortened. They should not have lack of extracurricular activities. They should be treated like everybody else is treated. So I understand the politicians' problem, because if they don't have it, they can't get elected, which means they can't do anything. They're just another Joe walking down the street, right? So you have to represent your constituents, because those are the ones who elect you. And in that case, it's really one block vote, which is extremely powerful. All right, so we have a lot of work to do going forward with the school districts, not only in East Ramapo, and I think you guys are doing the best you can with what you have, but the other school districts, Rockland County too. All right. One thing I do want to say before I close here, you're the first woman I've had on this podcast, and you've taken a tremendous amount of heat off of me. My wife has badgered me, along with my two daughters and my sister, for months now. And it wasn't done by design. It just, we started this in the summer, and, the guests just were male. I really didn't see, make any design. Those are just people available. They were calling me to be on the podcast. And when Manny gave me your name, I said, I'm going to call her. I called you right away. I said, please say yes, please. Because you opened up the door for some breathing room for me for at least a little while, and I appreciate that, believe me. But I really enjoyed talking to you. I think we've educated the public to a certain degree on what's going on in East Ramapo. It's very complicated, a lot more complicated than people will give it credence to, but I'm glad you're on the board over there. I have some hope that East Ramapo, along with the monitors, will get the proper resources to give these kids the best education they can and prepare them the best way they can for society, when they get out, and be productive citizens. And with people like you on the board, I think that will happen even against the tide. Okay? And I really want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.